Good evening, my YouTube viewers. It is Crystal here. I haven't made a video in about a week because I was busy working on some more statistics, and it took me about a week to get through all that. And then, so when I finished all that, which I'm not really finished actually, I decided I wanted to go back to my exploratory data analysis in Excel, which is what I had been working on. So my last video was about doing an exploratory data analysis on the Titanic dataset, and this particular video is doing a dashboard on the exploratory data analysis so you can see the dashboard. So this is actually the dashboard, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I made the dashboard. So the first thing we do is we come over here to where it says raw data, and we click on to raw data. And when we click, hold on, I just want to say something. There, that was being funny. And so when we click on to raw data, you can see this is the spreadsheet that I downloaded from a file that I got off of the internet. And so this is your raw data, in which I did a data analysis, exploratory data analysis on that raw data. So now what you do is you make a copy of that raw data, because you want to keep the raw data just in case something happens to it. So you make a copy of the raw data, and then you create a table from the raw data. And you do that by, you can come over here to your Home tab, and you can click on to Format as Table. And then when you format it as a table, then what you can do is it creates a table for you. But let's just say hypothetically you don't want the table anymore. You can go to where it says Table Design, and you can click on to Convert Range. And what that will do is that will convert it back to an array. So there is a way that you can convert it back to an array if you've made something a table and you don't want it to be a table. So we've made a table. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make pivot tables and pivot charts of a lot of the columns. And the pivot tables and pivot charts are going to be, what we're going to use to perform this exploratory data analysis. So the pivot tables and pivot charts that we make are going to be on survived. That's going to be either 1 or 0. P class, that's your passenger class. That's going to be 1, 2, or 3. Sex is going to be male or female. Age, and then embarked is going to be S, C, or Q. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a pivot table on the survivors. And so we come over here to where it says Pivot Table Analyze, and we'll say Field List. So you can see the field list where we have created this pivot table. And it's going to be, the survived is going to be in the rows and the values. And we're going to count the number of people that survived. So you can see of the survivors, you had more females than you had males. Okay. And then we're going to make a pivot chart out of that also. And the pivot chart is going to be based on the pivot table. Now we're going to make a pivot table and a pivot chart on the survivor class. So we'll come over here to pivot table, and you can see your fields. And so you're going to have your P class is going to be in rows and count of class. So you count the number of people in each class. So you've got 55% in third class, 21% in second class, and 24% in first class. So you're counting the people in each class. And after you've made your pivot table, then you make a pivot chart. And the pivot chart is interactive. Now what we want to do is we want to make a pivot chart on the age. or not the age, the gender, the sex, and you can see that of the sex, you had more males than females. So about double the males that you had females. And then we'll create a pivot chart of that as well, which will be interactive. Now we're going to use the age. And then so when we did the age, I did not want to have a X variable for every single age. So what I did was I grouped them. And how you group it, the pivot table, is you double click on it and it should say group. So we click on to group, and then when you click on to group, I said a starting age of 0, ending age of 80 by 10. And then what that did is rather than having one row for every number, we have, I think, 9 rows. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 9 rows. And then so you see that the most people on the ship were from 20 to 30. That was the most people on the ship. And then after that you had 30 to 40, which is what's interesting is because I'm in my 60s. That's why I don't show my face. I don't show my face partly because my lens is askew, so you can't see it anyway. But nobody wants to see a picture of a woman in her 60s. So there's not very many people from 60 to 70, and even less from 70 to 80. And I'm sure at that time it would have been pretty rare because we have an aging society. And as we have an aging society, we have more old people. But on this particular ship, most of the people were from 20 to 30 and then 30 to 40. So you can see we've got the age. So we've got age rows, and we counted the age, and that gave you that. So I just wanted to see where people embarked upon. And so Q is from Queensland, and S is from Southampton, and C is from Charburg or something like that. And then again, so you can see that we made the pivot table of embarked, and then we counted the number of people who embarked. And you can see that 72% embarked in Southampton, 9% embarked in Queensland, and 19% embarked in, I think it's Charburg or something like that, but it's definitely a C. So after we've made all of our pivot tables and our pivot charts, then we come over here to the dashboard, and we copy and paste all the pivot tables onto the dashboard. And then after we've copied and pasted all the pivot tables into the dashboard, then what you want to do is you want to import a slicer. So insert a slicer. So you come over here and we say slicer, and so I didn't do it right. Hold on. You have to click onto a chart. You have to click onto a chart, and then you can import the slicer, and then you say which slicer that you want. And this particular one we did survive. So we click onto OK, and then you get your slicer. But after you have your slicer, then what you want to do is you want to link your slicer to the other charts. So you double click on that, and you click on to report connection. And then when you click on to report connection, you get all these pivot tables, and you just click on to all the pivot tables because I wanted mine to link up to everything. So the only thing that I did mine, and then now we're going to click onto the phone. The only thing that I did was I clicked onto, I just wanted to know who survived, but you could do it on genders. If you wanted to know the percentage of genders, you could also do a gender. And if you wanted to do the percentage of passenger classes, who all was in a passenger class. You can do that as well, but I just did the survivors. But if you want to expand upon your pivot table and make it bigger, that's fine. So now we're going to click onto 1. So that's going to be all the survivors. So the survivors are 1. So you see that you had like less than 350 survivors. Of the gender, you had like less than 250 females and slightly over 100 males. So you had twice as many women survived as men. The passenger class, you had 35% were in third class, 25% were in second class, and 40% were in first class. Of the age, the people from 20 to 40 were the most likely to have survived. And then embarked, you had 64% from Southampton, 9% from Queensland, and 27% from C. We think it's Charbourg. So if you wanted to do do it on the gender, you could do it on the gender, and that would tell you how many people survived and of the gender. So we can do that if you want to do that. So we insert a slicer. So we do 6, and then we click OK. Okay, so we'll click on to females. So you'll see that the females, it gives you, oh sorry, what I forgot to do, double click on this and you say report connections, and you click on to all of them. And then so what that does is that links up all of the charts to the gender. So now we can click on to female. So you can see you had not very many females, less than 100 females, and the survivors, and no, less than 100 didn't survive, and less than 250 did survive. So the gender was female. Then it sorts it out in the passenger class. Of the females, 46% were in third class, and 30% were in first class, and 24% were in second class. Then it has the ages. The ages were generally 20 to 30 were more likely to survive, but we'll say 20 to 40. And then we say embarked. So 65% embarked from Southampton, 12% embarked from Queensland, and 23% embarked from Charbourg. Now, if you want to look at the males, then you'll see about 450 men didn't survive, but 100 did survive. The passenger class, it tells you that 60% were in third class, 19% were in second class, and 21% were in first class. The ages were generally the men from ages 20 to 30 were more likely to survive, and where they embarked, 76% were from Southampton, 7% were from Queensland, and 17% were from Charbourg. So we come over here and we double click on that, or we don't double click on that, and we X on that, and so now you can see your dashboard again. So that's a really, I'm not going to say it's a really good dashboard, but we'll say it's a good dashboard. We'll leave it at that. I mean, I know, because I've watched a YouTube video with an analyst, and he did absolutely a fantastic dashboard. But so I made a good dashboard. And so you can make the dashboard too, because I've showed you how to make it. So I've covered everything that I want to cover. I covered the raw data, the table, the pivot tables, the pivot charts, and the dashboards and the slicers. So I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. So if you like my video, please like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching my video. I look forward to making more videos for you about technical subjects in the future.